Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the P-LotPodcast. John here, joined once again by the main man himself, Michelangelo. Cuz, what's going on, dude? How are we making out, man?
Doing good, man. We're in the new year. This is our first show of 2026. We've been doing this show, John, for a very, very, very long time.
You were in high school when you were doing this show, right?
No, I was in college. We had started college. Right? Yeah. We had just begun college because we
We started
started
the
it like
show in
early
2020.
NFL season of 2020. So it was like September.
Man, did we pick a
Um,
great time to start doing our
No, we
podcast?
really did. We started at the barrel of the bottom, and then we worked our way up. So we are in a handful of months. We'll be doing the show for 6 years. That actually feels pretty ludicrous and kind of sickening when you think about it. I'm in a very like reflective, nostalgic phase at the moment after watching the Stranger Things finale, where a lot of things are just making me sick to my stomach. And it's
Oh
just
boy.
I've always known to not like enjoy like the passing of time and you know I like to relish on the past and whatever. And now it's like totally amplified these days. So I'm feeling very reflective heading into the new year. Um, so yeah, we are entering year six of soon to be of this show. Really crazy to think about it. We've seen one championship, we've seen multiple championship appearances, we've seen multiple playoff heartbreaks, we've seen a whole lot of nothing, and it's been fun. It's overall, I think, been fun. I think we can say, and I hope that we keep seeing more team success as we have some opportunities with some great teams as it currently stands. And it's important to appreciate that because we could always be a city that has some teams that will never be good. And it is nice to know that we root for teams
Yeah,
that do not do that.
I would agree that yeah, they do seem to have our teams do seem to have the habit of keeping things interesting for us.
Yeah,
Um,
especially that team.
guess I'll rock a hat today too. Why
Yeah,
not?
yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna save football as we always do for the end. Um, Tomorrow is not really a much of a. Would you consider tomorrow a big game for the Eagles in terms of them getting the 2 seed, despite the fact they've practically announced they're going to be resting starters? They want that bye. I think they feel like they can still win the game and and rest their starters at the same time because of who they're playing.
Um, yeah, absolutely. It's very important for them to get a win tomorrow. I do think, they're absolutely capable against a third string quarterback and, as bad as the Commanders are, yada, 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 all those things.
The
Um,
Commanders announced they're going to start Josh Johnson, so I do, and I have,
right.
and we'll talk more about it as we go when we get closer to picking that game. I want to start off with I do have something I want to kind of complain about, and I think you feel the same way as me. Is
Hmm.
Winter Classic was last night.
Hmm.
The Winter Classic has been a great aesthetic for watching a hockey game played in the elements, or at least cold weather. Like we went to the Winter Classic before when it was at Lincoln Financial Field, Flyers Penguins.
I mean, well, that was a stadium series. Not that it's all
Well,
that
stadium
different, but
series, but like
I
an
did go to the
outdoor.
I did go to the Winter Classic in 2012, Flyers Rangers in Citizens Bank Park. I was very lucky enough to go to that.
Yeah, the Winter Classics held outdoors in the elements to get that like hockey aesthetic. If you've ever played like like NHL 26 or prior year games, there's a whole big aesthetic of playing like outdoor, the pond hockey slash playing outdoors, right?
Yeah, and even like growing up as a kid, I didn't skate or play ice hockey or whatever, but I did play hockey in the driveway with my dad in like the snow and especially when it snowed. And it's cool. It's very cool. It feels very whimsical, if you will. So I know what you're getting at, that why did they play the Winter Classic in Miami where it was, you know, half the field was covered in sand to showcase like the beach. And listen, I get it. I don't think this is something they should do regularly, putting the Winter Classic in a spot where it doesn't ever feel like winter. Um, but I do think it's fine to do every now and again, especially when the hockey dominance of the last 5 years has come almost exclusively from the state of Florida, with the Lightning winning 2 Stanley Cups and now the Panthers winning back-to-back Stanley Cups, going to 3 straight. So, I think you had to give some sort of bone to Florida hockey because it has been so dominant. I don't think the Winter Classic should be routinely in somewhere it's not cold, because I do
Oh, you
think
mean
the
like kind of
aesthetic
having the
of
Winter
it is.
Classic next year in Nashville?
Yeah, like, I think that would be pretty stale, although they did put it in where's the Cotton Bowl? Isn't that in Texas? They had it in there, like, a handful of years ago, so, I don't know, I think we should move it back up north, pretty soon. Put it back in some cold places where there's a chance that snow's falling while the game's happening. I know that, you can only like, you don't wanna keep going to the same places over and over again, but I don't know, maybe this time around, the Bills will have a new stadium next year. That's probably a pretty good bet to put it up there, even though the
I
Sabres
would
kinda
agree.
suck. But
To me, though,
regardless.
to me, it's like the only time I ever seen that stadium like filled was
Mhm,
the World Baseball Classic and this game.
mhm,
And
mhm,
it being like Panthers Rangers to me, that was even like another. That was even like like oh yeah, the big classic rivalry of the Florida Panthers and the New York Rangers.
mhm,
Like, why
right.
don't you do like Hurricanes Panthers? That's a or like
Well, they needed the big market to bring eyes to it. If they did Hurricanes, Panthers, I don't think the ratings would have been nearly as high as, even they
any
weren't that
yeah,
high, I'm
dude.
sure, but
So to me, like in like the major sports, like just in my opinion, to me it does feel like hockey's sort of like golf. Like you're just gonna have that core audience, and like growth potential is more or less gonna be like your current audience passing the interest in the sport down to like their kids or like nieces, nephews, etc. Where like I just it to me it's like I turn it on, it looked weird. I'm like, eh. I mean, granted, like the Rangers had that really sick goal where Ekholm was like passed it from his, on his butt.
sure, sure. But I mean, no, I hear you. It's just I hear you. Like, hockey has issues just kinda growing the game, they always kinda have. It's the game, I think itself is in a good spot. I do think they have some pretty big issues, like the playoff format is absolutely well overdone and needs to get revamped, or at least kind of reworked to what it used to be. I think it's very stupid that you could
It's
very
just
well
dumb. You're
have
playing it
top teams.
indoors. You're playing it
Well, they
indoors.
opened the roof. I mean, they opened it. It just wasn't it's just not freezing out. There's no threat of snow. Like, that's part of the
Like if they
aesthetic
play
of
it,
it.
like yeah, like that. To me, it I don't know.
It was fine for a one-time thing. I don't think they need to do it again. I think they're better off. They're heading back up north. They should head back up. But anyways, enough hockey discourse. We have a pretty solid move in the baseball world. Tatsuya Imai has signed with the Houston Astros. How about it? Signs a 3-year deal that's worth up to $63 million. It's a $54 million with incentives on innings pitched each year that could, if he stays through, be a 3-year, $63 million deal, so 21 million a year, as opposed to the, I think it's 18 he's currently slotted at, with opt-outs after each individual season, and that being the biggest reason why the Phillies didn't go get him, because he seems to have wanted opt-outs. Reports
well, think of
are,
opt outs the first 2 years. So
well, I
he
mean, that's
pitches.
all the years.
He pitched. Let's say he throws for like a 3.3 ERA. We'll say like 1.2 WHIP, and ERA is such a bogus stat. Like
I mean, if he
let's
has a great year, no, I hear
let's
you.
say
If
like
he has a
190 Ks. I'm throwing like decent numbers, right? That's worth more than 18 million a year, in my opinion, right? So he can opt out and then get a mega deal. right? Because you will prove, oh, he can pitch in the major leagues, essentially.
Yeah, the big issue that seems to be present with, all the Pirates? No, okay. The issue that seems to be present with all the players from the Japanese league, there were 3 big ones, Kazuma Okamoto, who remains unsigned, um, obviously Tatsuya Imai just signed, and then, Munetaka Murakami just signed a few weeks ago with the Chicago White Sox. The issue that's coming, I guess, is teams are worried and not trusting that they're gonna translate super well. I mean, Murakami was, like, the most excited, highest touted Japanese prospect since Ohtani and Yamamoto the last, like, couple years after we watched him in the World Baseball Classic, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's a shame this guy can't come over now. He'd get so much money. He's gonna be highly sought after." And then he has like a downish season with the high velocity and all the question marks on if he can translate. And he ends up signing a prove it deal with the Chicago White Sox that, you know, the team that notoriously never spends money, but is like, you know what? Here's a way that I'm going to be able to sell tickets. And all these contenders that were linked to him to be, a third baseman of the future and of their contending window don't make an offer for him. And Kazuma Okamoto, the team that's been linked the most to him has been the Pittsburgh Pirates, another team notorious for not spending money and not caring about winning, and all these contenders that could use an upgrade or whatever at third base or a corner infield spot. And they're kind of all sitting on their hands worried. At least Tatsuya Imai, even though he didn't get a big contract, at least is going to a perennial great team like the Houston Astros, where someone is taking that risk. And listen,
Well,
the
a team that's
opt-outs
very good
goes
at
in. It's
developing
not,
pitching,
yeah,
with their
yeah,
analytics. I mean,
yeah, sure. So it just teams are very hesitant, clearly, with the Japanese market at the moment. I guess it's not maybe Roki Sasaki's struggles scare teams, but I feel like his playoff success and success as a bullpen piece should have wavered that a little bit, but I don't know. It all
well,
feels
I
tough.
think it's very important to note that Tatsuya Imai is a Scott Boras client,
Mhm,
and I think you look at his contract he signed. Look, we got the lockout looming, man.
mhm.
So you know,
Yeah, yeah.
contracts in the lockout, contracts roll over. In other words, you know, the Schwarber contract could be a 6 year contract for 150 million as opposed to
Mhm.
or 5 years 150 million because you'll still be here. It doesn't use up one of the years.
Yeah.
So I think that's why the Phillies are also like looking at like a Nick Castellanos buyout, how they want to work this because of the rollover aspect to it.
Mhm.
I think to a certain extent. I think in regards to like the Japanese hitters, Michael, with like when it comes to the pitchers, we have so many ways to measure like pitching success with analytics where you just don't have that in depthness, I think, with hitters in a certain extent, Michael. Because think about like all like, spin rate, arm angles, like
It's definitely easier to evaluate pitchers absent of their performance against a hitter versus evaluating hitters absent of their performance in games. Like you can watch pitchers throw a bullpen and get a pretty decent understanding on if that's going to be able to play in a game. Like you said, based on spin rates, based on arm angles, based on velocity and mixing pitches, whatever. But like you're not watching batting practice and thinking, "Oh yeah, this is the guy." Because like anybody that played up to high school level baseball can look good, in BP. Obviously, there's levels to it, but you need to see a hitter produce in games. Even if you're like, oh, well, you can look at average exit velocity and launch angles, and you can do that, but that still comes in, okay, how do they look in a game, not versus, a pitching machine or front toss or, BP or whatever. Um, it ultimately needs to translate in a game where a pitcher, you can definitely get more out of them, even if their in-game success isn't as great. If the stuff is good and you feel like you can work with it, you definitely have an advantage. So yeah, I agree with you there that you're evaluating a hitter puts a lot more stock into like, well, how good is the pitching they're actually facing? Where like you can look at
Right,
a pitcher, think the talent they're facing isn't great, but if all their spin rates and stuff are still good enough, you're like, well, that'll translate against any sort of talent.
right. If you even look at Shohei, like
Mhm.
he was brought here as a really a pitcher that can hit.
Mhm.
Where obviously now we know like he's a better hitter than he is a pitcher.
Mhm.
So that was kind of unexpected. And I think in Murakami's case, though, this is another aspect to it too, Michael. Murakami slots in this year as being like the cleanup hitter for the White Sox.
Mhm.
If you were to let's say he were to hypothetically sign with the Phillies,
Yeah.
are you gonna bump Bryce Harper down the order, or Kyle, or shoot, even like Alec Boehm, or like whomever? I mean, maybe, but like at least on the White Sox, he's going to be getting like six. If he plays every day, he's going to get at least 600 at bats. Where if he's on the Phillies, he might be platooned. That's the
Well,
thing.
I
He wants
mean,
as many at bats as possible to cash in and prove that he could be like.
I think if the Phillies actually went in to go get a guy like that, I do think their plan would be for them to play every day. I don't think they're, you know, it would turn into a Max Kepler situation or anything like that. But regardless, Kazuma Okamoto's still out there. Doesn't feel like the Phillies are going to do that. Doesn't feel like the Phillies are going to do much to end out the offseason, with the exception of whatever happens with JT Realmuto. But we really have had, outside of this Imai signing, we're definitely in a dead period of the MLB offseason and free agency. It's probably the biggest gripe that people do have, that the moves come seemingly out of nowhere and it's really exciting, but then you have these weeks upon weeks long stretches. It's like everyone wanted to get all those handful of deals done before Christmas or before Thanksgiving and Christmas, with the Adolis Garcia and, the other bunch of relievers that flurried and went in and got signed. And now it's like it seems like everyone just kind of took off for the holidays, the same way in like the corporate world where everyone's just kind of putting their work on the back burner. And then it's like, okay, we'll get back to it now that the new year's here. So we kind of got to go through these dead periods with the MLB offseason. But I'm sure the stove will heat up once again pretty shortly. There's still some huge names out there and available. But until then, we will have to wait and see. We do want to now, before we get into the picks, before we get into football, is get into our 2026 bold predictions. Now, we talked about our 2025 predictions last episode, and this time it is time to predict out the new year, predict out 2026. We had a pretty decent hit rate last year, so it's time, hopefully, the good ones hit and the bad ones miss. But um, yeah, we're going to kick it off with the Philadelphia Flyers. John, do you want to start with your Flyers bold prediction?
I want to be positive because last year I was extremely negative, and of course it happened.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay, so my prediction for the Flyers. I'll tell you what sticks out in my mind, Michael, and I don't know if this is even bold to say, is that they're going to miss the playoffs. When you actually look at,
I was actually gonna say exactly the same words verbatim. Is it considered bold to say they're gonna miss the playoffs? And
I don't think it is.
it's hard because you look at the NHL standings and they're currently third in the Metro, which obviously guarantees you a playoff spot. But then in
Correct.
the wild card picture, like the teams that currently sit in the wild card are the Capitals, who are tied with the Flyers in points, and the Sabres, who have 1 point less than the Flyers. And then there's a handful of teams that are like 3 to 5. Yeah, it's more like 3 to 4 points less than the Flyers currently. So they're pretty much in the thick of a playoff spot. I'm looking at the standings now, seeing that the Sabres have won 10 in a row. Are you serious? They were 11, 14, and 4, and now they're 21, 14, and 4. Pretty crazy. Um, but like they're like kind of in the thick of a playoff spot currently. Obviously, a bad couple weeks could put them out, but I think the average fan that isn't super tuned in to the Flyers and the talent level, I think would be pretty
And
disappointed if they missed it.
so, like, I guess my bold prediction for the Flyers, and this is kind of how I envision it, actually involves John Tortorella, Michael.
Oh God.
I think this offseason, I think Tage Thompson becomes a Flyer. The,
Oh.
the Flyers have this just massive glut of wingers in their farm system and like kind of on their current roster. And like a lot of their players' names are being bantied about in trades. And I think they want to make that big swing.
Mhm.
And I was thinking like apparently I think the Sabres are also going to miss the playoffs. I think they're going to move on from Lindy Ruff. And apparently Tortorella wants that job. And the Sabres aren't exactly an appealing team for a lot of coaches. So if Tortorella wants that job, they'll probably give it to him. And I think Torts is going to want Konechny, but Konechny has that no movement clause the Flyers stupidly gave him. So like, I don't know. I feel like the Flyers want to add another like young player who is really good, but just like needs like I think like wants to like maybe go to a place where he's going to get like first line minutes
So
with like
you're saying acquire Tage Thompson
yeah,
as your bold prediction. Okay.
that's bold. I want to be bold. That's pretty bold.
Bold. I'm gonna say they missed the playoffs. I'm gonna call that bold at the moment. And it's hard because obviously the season won't be done by this time next year. But I will say by this end of next year, this time next year, I guess, Michkov will be well on his way to a serious legitimate breakout, not
Oh, I
just
thought you were going to say get traded. I was like,
no,
oh
no,
my
no.
god.
I did wrestle around with that, but I didn't wanna put that out there. So they're not gonna make the playoffs this year. Michkov is gonna work his ass off all off season and is literally even though he's already way better than what the Flyers, like, think he is currently, even with his out of shape issues or whatever they think is wrong with him, he's gonna be so good that it would actually be insane for him to not play, um, top line minutes and is going to be a dominant force next year and put
Who
up
on the
I'm gonna
Flyers
give him a
compared him to
90-point season
Kaprizov?
next year.
That's what
90
kind of
point 90-point season next year.
who the hell on the Flyers compared him to Kaprizov?
Kaprizov? The Flyers did? I didn't see that.
Kaprizov. Was it? I think it was like was it Anthony Sanfilippo who was like, oh, the Flyers view him like the Wild viewed Kaprizov.
I mean, I don't know.
So I
I
was
didn't
like,
see that.
yeah, sure thing there, right?
I'd like to think they do, but it doesn't seem like it. Okay.
Doesn't seem like they're showing
On
it.
to the Philadelphia 76ers. My bold prediction for the Sixers. It's a positive one, man.
Oh
It's
boy,
actually really positive. I look at this team and I look at how they're currently structured, and for the first time in pretty much ever, I feel like this is the first time I don't think they should do anything at the trade deadline. I really don't think they need anything else. They already have all the pieces they could possibly need. We all forget that Kelly Oubre's been hurt for, like, 2 months at this point. Trendon Watford has been hurt for a while at this point and is coming back in, like, February. Those were 2
I agree.
insanely massive.
I agree with you. Like, if you're just looking to add like a bench piece, like, is that going to make a difference? Like,
I don't think but the point is I don't think they need it. Like, they actually don't need it this time around. Like, I look at you get Oubre back, you get Watford back, you give Jabari Walker and Dominic Barlow, like, their full one-way contracts, like, upgrading them off the two ways so you can have them play in the playoffs, and you just have a lot of guys that are capable. You have your guards of Maxey, Edgecombe, Grimes, McCain, and Watford now. That's like 5 legitimate effective guards, and you have your wings of Oubre, PG, Barlow. It is it's Justin Edwards
Well,
as
let's
like a
just.
lower
I
level
mean, let's
guy.
just. I mean, let's look big picture here. Do you want to acquire a piece
No,
that's
I'm
gonna,
full stop. No, I don't.
no, no, no.
I
I'm
don't.
I'm speaking hypothetically. Like this is like kind of a hypothetical question. Will be, do you want the would like when I say you, not you, I mean like the royal you. Would you want someone to come in and take away minutes from Jared McCain or VJ Edgecombe? Absolutely not.
No, no. And you look at their other their other forwards, George Walker, Barlow, and Oubre as very effective. And like Oubre's like, guard wing mix. And then your bigs, Embiid, Bona, and Drummond is a really nice three-headed center trio where certain backups profile well against certain teams. So it's valuable to have both of them. You just got to manage the roster, like whether that's moving off Eric Gordon, clearing, like trading Broomy because, for whatever you don't think he's all that great, and just freeing up that space. All that being said, I do think they have as many pieces as they could possibly have to compete with anybody. And obviously, this is a year unlike any other to
You're
succeed
gonna
really
say they're gonna
well.
win their first. Your bold prediction. They're gonna win their
Listen,
first round
John, you
playoff
need to
matchup.
let me get to my bold prediction is I think they're coming out of the East. I look at the Eastern Conference, I see the Celtics with no Tatum, I see the Pacers with no Halliburton.
When you say come out
When
of the East, you mean they're going to go to the NBA
Yeah,
Finals.
coming out of the East, absolutely. I look at the Eastern Conference, and when the number 1 seed is the Detroit Pistons, I'm not I don't think they're bad or anything. I'm not, like, casual talking about this. It's not
The
that
podcast
scary.
where we get cooked by Tobias Harris in the playoffs is going to be probably one of your biggest meltdowns.
Sure. And I look at the Knicks, and the Knicks just feel like everything's wrong with them. They very much suck away from the Garden. The Celtics are at the 3 seed right now, but again, it just solid teams that aren't totally unbeatable. And I think the Sixers are right up there with them. And I think the way Embiid's continue to look good and look more like himself each and every game.
So you
Um,
think they're like this year's version of the Pacers?
I No, because I don't think the teams are all that comparable. Like, I don't think the players or, the way the teams were
Well, they're like
constructed.
the
The
fourth or
Sixers have a
fifth
bunch
seed.
of
That's where the
veterans.
Sixers kind of project.
Okay, I mean, to call like every 4 or 5 seed that goes on a run like the Pacers, I don't know if that
But they
I
would,
can't.
but in your scenario, like here's the thing though, dude, is like here we're gonna pull up the NBA standings. I agree with you. The East is
They're a
very,
half a
the
game
East
out
is
of the
clearly the
4.
weaker of the two
They're a half
conferences.
a game out of the 4. They're 2.5 out of the 3. Like, they're right there. I mean, they're in the thick of it. They're also, you know 2 games out of the 9. Like, the East is pretty tight. It's still early in the season, obviously, but I just think that with the ascension of Maxey continuing to get better, with Embiid getting more like himself, with Paul George embracing his role player role, and your young guards like BJ Edgecombe showing and continuing to make clutch shots down the stretch and being, as ballsy as ever and calm, cool, and collected. Like, that's what it takes. You look at all the how these teams go on playoff runs that aren't like totally loaded like the Thunder or the Celtics were. It comes down to young players and role players stepping up, and if we can't see, like, I can see totally big visions of Edgecombe hitting big threes in the 4th quarter to win you playoff games, or Dominic Barlow getting big defensive stops and grabbing offensive rebounds to set up said Edgecombe 3 to put you in a spot, and it's like, that's how it gets done. It's the equivalent of watching Josh Hart grab 12 rebounds and knock down bullshit 3 after bullshit 3 against the Sixers to beat them. Like, a guy that's a career like, that sucks, but shot 48% from 3 in a series. Like, that's a total farce, and I don't think some scrub on the Sixers all of a sudden gonna play well, but we're seeing their young guys that don't make a lot of money already stepping up in ways to support, the stars already, and I think that that's absolutely translatable to the playoffs. So, I'm predicting that the Sixers come out of the East.
Wow, that's pretty bold.
Mhm.
Uh, geez, my bull. So I had a couple. Can I get two not very bold predictions, but combine them into one?
Sure, sure.
I think that Tyrese Maxey will finish top 3 in MVP voting. He will not win the MVP, but I think now, especially that NBA Twitter's God, you know, their
Yeah.
role model is going to be hurt for the next 4 weeks. Um, Nikola Jokic is hurt. He's going to get disqualified from getting MVP consideration. I think Max will finish top three. And I think Edgecombe will finish. I think Edgecombe will have a strong second half. I think he'll be the runner up for Rookie of the Year behind Cooper Flag because, they got to promote the hell of that team before they move him to Vegas. Ooh, did I say that? Did I say that? Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was gonna
That's
say
good.
Sixers win the first round matchup. That was my bold prediction, but you said they're gonna win the Eastern
I mean, not
Conference.
for
So.
nothing. I think I'd be almost disappointed if they don't win at least the first round this year. Like, it all depends on how the regular season shakes out. But I think they're there. On to the Phillies.
Oh
John, you want to
boy.
go first? What's your Phillies bowl prediction for 2026?
This is really bold. Jesus Luzardo will finish top three in National League Cy Young voting. He's
That
in.
was Yeah. Go ahead.
He's in. Was that where your prediction was going to be?
Like, partially. I'll explain. But go ahead. Yeah.
All right, I have a
No,
couple ones.
that's fine. I'll take Luzardo top three Cy Young.
Luzardo top three Cy Young, and I was also thinking of Adolis Garcia getting DFA'd in like July.
Oof, 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 oof.
I know that sounds bad. I don't even know that's even bold because like Buster Olney was just trashed him. He was this isn't the same guy that was with the Rangers when they won the World Series. Like he has just gotten so progressively worse.
Yeah, absolutely. The Phillies are definitely doing
And
some
at least
hoping.
Like Kepler, at least like
He was
he was
injured.
he was just unlucky where they just stuck with it. Where like Adolis, like he can't. You brought him in here to hit lefties, and he can't hit lefties anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm okay. I'm gonna somewhat run back my bold prediction from last year, um, where last year I said two two top five Cy Young finishers, and I was close. I said Sanchez being the other one with Wheeler. Well, I said Wheeler wins a Cy Young, and then the other two finish. I'm going to say two top five Cy Young finishers. I'm going to call my shot and say Sanchez and Luzardo. So that's where the overlap came from with us. Um, I think I'm going to be a little hopeful, a little bold, a little whatever, and say back to the World Series. I'm gonna jump the shark a little bit. I went back in the NLCS last year. Obviously, it ended in heartbreak, but we're gonna jump the shark a little bit and say they make the World Series off the backs of great pitching, off the backs of a very strong bullpen. And I guess this should be considered bold, like a motivated, hopefully pissed off Bryce Harper. Do I push and say top 5? I'm not gonna push and say top 5. I'm gonna say top 10 MVP for Bryce. Get himself back in the conversation of one of the best players in the sport,
You're saying
as
pissed
opposed
off
to
because
all of it, like getting down, getting
the
called out by
GM
the
saying he's
owner,
kind of like I
GM,
wish
I mean.
I need him to do more
Yeah, a
essentially.
little called out by the GM. I think, starting to get questioned a little bit in the city by the general fan base, by the general media, starting to question, "Oh, getting compared to Jalen Hurts for fairness or not." It's obviously not
Well,
fair, but,
I
like,
don't
to do
see. I
that.
don't even know, like, dude. Like, I don't even think that's a thing anymore because, well, we'll talk about it when the Eagles
I mean, it
play.
was a thing, but it's like, what was the conversation we were having in the middle of October when the Phillies got eliminated? What was that? Not us, but what was being talked about on WIP about, you know, Oh,
Oh
you
my
know, we
god.
we
So I've
we
got,
give Bryce so many breaks, you know, he really deserves his fair share of shit, and it's like, okay. Um, so yeah, I
by the
think
way,
he
they're
hears
talking
all
about
that.
benching Jalen Hurts and then praising him, in like the
Well,
same
I
week.
mean, they're pretty dumb, but Bryce hears all that. He definitely hears all that. So hopefully he can channel it and actually you want to feel his presence. He had runs last year during the regular season that were like, this is really nice, this is fun, but he had like an uncomfortably bad year in clutch situations, very uncharacteristic to what he's done his entire career, really. And I think that is why the distaste for him was so strong because anyone could pick a game throughout the course of the regular season where here comes Bryce in the eighth or ninth inning with runners on, and he doesn't get the job done. And it happened a lot. It happened in the playoffs a couple times. It happened a lot in the regular season. Um, Coming off the last 3 years of being perhaps the most clutch hitter in the entire sport and coming through in the biggest moments, he had a well, really hard pullback to the mean, and hopefully he can channel in his locked in at bats and continue to produce. Obviously, you know, the protection will factor in on that, but I'm hoping that Bryce really puts teams in a bind where they're not only scared of him just for the namesake, but they're scared of him because he is striking fear into all of the opponents that he faces. So two top 5 Cy Young finishes being Sanchez and Luzardo. They get back to the World Series, and on that way, Bryce Harper finishes in top 10 of National League MVP voting. So that takes us to the Eagles' bold predictions. I don't want to just say win the Super Bowl. Maybe I should. Maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. Um, I really don't know. I guess I will. I'll say it. Sure.
Oh, great.
Listen. I said it last year, and it was wonderful. So
Oh,
yeah, one for two on that. We'll see how we'll see how that goes this time around. But I think what'll be bold about that is they're going to finally have to go on the road and win a road playoff game this time around.
so you never done it under Sirianni before.
No, and let's granted they haven't had many opportunities to. They're what Owen
Back to
1?
back
No,
division
Owen
winners.
2,
Oh,
Owen
the
2,
0-2, Tampa Bay.
Owen 2, Tampa Bay twice. So win the Super Bowl again, and I'm gonna say revamp the interior offensive line. I think we're gonna see some new
Mm.
faces. I think Dickerson's gonna be here,
I was one of my bold predictions. I
and
was my
then to wrap it up with 3 straight division titles. To really take the stranglehold on this division for the first time in 20 plus
Hey
years.
man,
Take
it
the
can
stranglehold
happen.
back. It can happen.
Hey
So
man,
that's
it can
my
happen.
bold. Yeah.
All right. So my bold predictions. Let's see. Is it a bold prediction to say that Jalen Phillips will get re-signed?
Kinda. I would say that. I don't think that was in the
You look at
plans when
his
they made the
numbers.
trade.
Like you look at his numbers. Like when the Eagles make these like in-season trades, they under Howie, they never re-sign the guy when they make these trades
Mhm.
for various reasons, like underperforming. They didn't like being here. I'm looking at you, Golden Tate, and Robert Quinn. But I mean, Jalen Phillips
Kevin
right now.
Byard. I
Jalen
mean,
Phillips is not going to play tomorrow because they're resting starters. He's got 29 tackles, 5 sacks, 1 forced fumble. Listen, I know those are like not the numbers that we like look at, but
it's the
like, is
impact.
anyone
You can feel it, man.
Oh, of course you can feel his impact. But what I'm saying is like in terms of like money, is he going to get Josh Sweat money? Like no, no one's giving him Josh Sweat money. This is the first year he's ever been healthy in his career, all things considered. He's like a $15 million a year guy. Like Reddick had like 2 straight 10 sack seasons. He got 15 mil a year from the Eagles. You know, I think they will re-sign Jalen Phillips. He's a Fangio guy.
I don't think that was in the plans when they made the trade, so I would call it bold. I think the whole point of doing it was like, we'll get the comp pick back when he leaves in the
And
offseason.
I 100% agree with you on the interior O line revamp. I
Mhm.
looked at and I looked at a couple sites NFL draft big boards. There's at least 4 or 5 interior O linemen in the top 30, like 2 picks. It's most likely the Eagles will take an interior O lineman and either have that guy
It'll be
be
tough. How fast are they gonna draft the Lane replacement? You know what I mean?
well.
That's
That's the thing is that that person they draft could be the Lane replacement in the
You know
future.
what? You know what I'm gonna add to my bold prediction is they're gonna draft 4 linemen in the upcoming draft, 4 offensive linemen.
I was thinking about saying like Eagles trade Cam Jurgens
That could be part of a revamp. That could absolutely be part of a
because
revamp.
like he did like basically hoping stupid teams bank on the back to back Pro Bowls and then
I
like
mean, it's kinda like Becton, Becton got a pretty nice payday off of being, like, arguably the weakest member of a great unit, um, and, like, the Chargers kinda had to eat it.
6 good games
Like,
basically.
he was solid, very much solid, but he got paid like he was a really he's not Sayamalu, to say the least. That's been a great move for Pittsburgh, but
I was good. Yeah. Okay. So like I guess one of my other ones I have is that is it bold to say that they keep AJ Brown? Is that bold?
no. I'm revoking that from being bold. That is not bold.
Would it
It
also
would
be
be bold
would
that
it be
they
bold if
get rid
if
of
I
him.
say they keep Dallas Goddard?
That's bold.
I'm going to tell you why they're going to keep Dallas Goddard.
Uh,
And this might not even be bold. I looked
that's
at
bold.
I looked at Spot Rack. Dallas Goddard has a $20 million void year for next year.
Mhm.
And like, are they really going to blow $20 million in cap space to not bring Goddard back for at least one more season?
Um, I mean,
That's a lot of. That's basically
wait,
like
you have to pay now to use Spot Rack? If you wanna look at previous contracts, that is disgusting. Like, I was trying to look up Josh Sweat's previous contract, like, situation with the Eagles, because what they did this year with Goddard is essentially what they did with Josh Sweat last year, where we were all prepared to lose Sweat, and they essentially reworked the deal to be like, "Listen, man, we want you to stay for 1 more year," and like, put it in his head, and, like, rightfully so, that you're gonna have a great year next year, and you're gonna get paid big time, but if you hit free agency now, you're not gonna get paid a ton. And it worked. He had a great season, got paid a lot of money by the Cardinals. And I think they did the same thing to Dallas Goedert this year, and it was the first year he's been healthy all season, like, the healthiest he's been all in his career, and he has 11 touchdowns and a great season. He's gonna get I think he's gonna get a pretty sizable contract, but if you think he's gonna stay, do you think it's a long-term contract or just another glorified one-year deal?
uh I would think either a glorified 1 year deal or I don't think I mean, listen, like,
Like, is he the the short-term, long-term hybrid tight end?
well, I mean, I think you and I both agree in the loaded tight end draft, the Eagles really kind of screwed the pooch not investing in tight end when you consider that.
There's apparently another loaded one this year.
Like, I don't think you could just draft a guy in like the second round and then just assume he's just going to come in and start. Like, they basically did that with Andrew Makuba, and I think now that we're seeing this defense without Andrew Makuba with Marcus Epps in there, like, no offense to Andrew Makuba, but a lot of those like bad Makuba reps that we saw, if they had Marcus Epps in there, like, I don't know. Maybe we're not fully sweating the Buccaneer game when he completely whips on an INT. Or I don't know, Mike. Maybe we're not sweating some of these bad Eagle
I mean, listen,
wins.
he's
I don't
a
know.
rookie, so
Like he
he's
was
got
clearly like we all thought. Like I mean, like I'm not trying to say he's bad. I'm just saying
he's a rookie. Like
like
that's
the
all it
Eagles'
is.
offense, especially if Scott Loeffler becomes the offensive coordinator. Like the dude made Harold Fannin, who no one even really rated. Like he was like an undrafted like rookie heading into his 2024 season into a third round pick.
I
Like
think yeah, I think we all got spoiled by DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell to the point where and even like Jalen Carter, to the point where we're just kind of expecting all these defensive standout rookies to be, like, incredible when they first get here. I think we were so excited and we're like, "Oh my god, Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell were, like, all pro level as rookies," that especially in the secondary, we have another rookie, yeah, Vic Fangio's gonna have him playing like an all-pro, and I think didn't bake in, like, the rookie struggles that are pretty normal to have, and I think that's why people were disappointed a little bit with Makuba. I don't think he was that bad, I don't think he was, like, incredible either, I think he was pretty much on par with how most rookies play their first year in the NFL, but Epps is absolutely stable that alright, so to summarize, Philadelphia Flyers, my bold prediction: miss the playoffs, Michkov gets 90 points next year. Your bold prediction: acquire Tage Thompson. Philadelphia 76ers, my bold prediction: they come out of the East. Your bold prediction: Maxey top 3 MVP voting, and VJ Edgecombe runner-up Rookie of the Year. Phillies, my bold prediction: 2 top 5 Cy Young finishers, Christopher Sanchez and Jesus Luzardo. Bryce Harper finishes top 10 in MVP voting, and they make the World Series. Your bold prediction: Jesus Luzardo top 3 Cy Young voting, and Adolis Garcia is DFA'd by the All-Star break. Philadelphia Eagles, my bold prediction is they win the Super Bowl, and on their way, Sirianni gets his first road playoff win. They revamp the interior offensive line. They draft 4 offensive linemen in the upcoming draft, and they win a third straight division title.
you know what?
You
Let's get a little more creative with. I want to get more creative with the Eagles a little bit for
well, go
you.
ahead. Which for me, what's wrong with mine? I think mine's
Name
great.
one offensive lineman they're going to draft.
You want me to pick an offense? I haven't looked into the drafting
I
aspect
was
of it.
going to say like the
I saw
guy
that
who.
Oregon guard get mocked to them like 4 times.
Oh, actually, I
So
actually you know who I like. Actually, they're going to pick. Who I think
yeah.
is going to be there. Kalen Proctor. He projects as a guard. Alabama.
The Isn't he a tackle?
He's a tackle, but right now, a lot of scouts think he's going to come in the NFL to play guard and then work his way into playing tackle. Isn't that
Okay.
like isn't that the situation the Eagles want to do with Lane?
Get a guy. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if they want a guy that's going to play inside and have to bump up outside. Obviously, that's a pretty big ask. I don't know. Maybe that's what they want to do. I don't mind that. But your bold predictions for the Eagles: they re-signed Jalen Phillips. They also revamped the interior offensive line, and they keep Dallas Goddard. So those are our bold predictions for 2026, and hopefully some come true. Hopefully others don't. As most of them are positive, though, I will say. The only negative one is honestly my Flyers one. All the other ones are pretty positive. So that's good, man. Look at us being on the up and up for the new year. So let's get into the NFL. Let's get into football. We have Week 18 on the horizon. We have 2 big games today, and we have some big games tomorrow as well. To open up the action, we have potentially what could be the NFC South crown on the line. Obviously, with the
I like that you
Buccaneers
said
losing,
potential.
yeah, with the Buccaneers losing last week to the Miami Dolphins, it's now opened the door to where they not only need to win, but they do need some help. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be hosting the Carolina Panthers today. They are 3-point favorites at home. They're getting pretty healthy, I think, at the right time, whereas Carolina seems to be kind of rallying at the wrong time. It feels like they've kind of struggled a little bit, and I watched um, a breakdown of the game against the Seahawks, and Bryce Young was obviously very passive in that game. He threw almost all of his passes were checkdowns, but it was a very bad game from the running back duo that is Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard. They they couldn't make a guy miss in the open field, and obviously they lost by a handful of points that game, but it does feel like that game could have been closer had their running backs been a little more effective in open space. And I think that's kind of what was their driving force to being good and winning as many games as they did, is that Rico Dowdle was out of his mind and Chuba Hubbard was an incredible two-headed monster. But now it looks like they've kind of fallen off a little bit. And I think, Kalijah Cansey's coming back for Tampa. I think that's going to be a really tough matchup for them to deal with. I'm actually gonna go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here. I know how much I've hate watched and how much I've hated, and maybe they are just collapsing. They're 1-7 in their last 8 games. Maybe, just maybe, it doesn't matter who they're playing on any given Sunday or Saturday, whatever, they're just going to lose. That's kinda what the 2023 Eagles were. They were favored every week, but it really didn't matter because it just felt like they were gonna lose every time they stepped on the field. That's how
Ooh.
dead they were.
Oh,
And
I
that
wanna give
might
you.
be how Tampa looks right now, but I'm gonna fade that feeling in my gut
Oh,
and go with the
you're gonna
Buccaneers.
laugh at what I'm about to say.
Give me Tampa -3.
You're gonna laugh at what I'm about to tell you. I'm taking Carolina. That's not what's funny. Is I'm taking Carolina. Michael, I was thinking yesterday. It was a quiet day at work, so I was just kind of going through like looking at like trying to project the future when it comes to quarterbacks in the NFL draft. I
Mhm.
think the Jets and the Raiders are both taking quarterbacks next year, Dante Moore and Mendoza, respectively.
Sure.
Which team do you, like? I was thinking, what team would take would get Arch? Like if the
If he
Raiders
comes
and
out.
the Jets and the Titans all have their quarterbacks, and Cam Ward can play. Cam Ward's legit. They just need to get him players. Michael, I think a dark horse team for Arch is going to be Tampa because at the rate that Baker is just
Ah.
going like this, like wouldn't that just translate to them losing more games next year? Because they're gonna get a new head coach. Baker's clearly a system QB.
Mhm.
They got weapons. Like Godwin's a good receiver. Egbuka's a good receiver. Jalen McMillan, who no one talks about, he's pretty good. They have a pretty good three wide receivers on their roster. Kate Allen's a solid tight end.
Mhm.
Baker's just bad, dude. He's been one of the worst. He's been 9 levels of bad the last 2 months. And I'm
Mhm.
sorry, he's a veteran quarterback. He should be. This isn't like he's in his third year, and It's not like Brock Purdy, not being coached by Shanahan anymore.
Yeah.
This is just bad. And I think they complete the collapse tonight. They complete the collapse. And I think next year the other three NFC South teams are trending up. They're clearly trending down. They're an
Mhm.
older team. I think they're just going to be just bad next year. And I think this is kind of I think this is going to be the catalyst to that. And I think Arch Manning, hope you like Tampa Bay, Florida, dude, because that's where you're going to go.
So you're pretty sure that he's coming out. You feel pretty confident he's coming out this year.
No, next year. Oh, no, I'm saying
Oh, oh, oh,
Tampa's going
oh,
to
okay,
miss the
okay,
playoffs
okay.
today, and they're going to hit rock bottom next year.
I see. I see. Oh, well, okay. I actually not to do bold predictions for other teams, but I like that one. I'm a fan of that one. Um, you'll we could have similar vibes despite the fact I think the Panthers lose today, but we'll talk about that when we get to that game. Next game we have here. This game I've been wrestling with for all week. The Seattle Seahawks are in San Francisco to take on the 49ers, and the Seahawks are 2.5-point favorites on the road. This one is tough because you look at the way these two teams are looking. Now, granted, Seattle's still winning, so it's good for them. But Sam Darnold
It's hard to ask me to be
and
impartial with this.
Sam Darnold and the Seahawks offense is definitely on a downturn. However, their
Franco actually
defense,
has to hit some incentives today to get his like a big bonus, or I read.
the Seahawks defense though is still incredible. It's one of the best units in the league.
Niners
It's been
defense
one of
is
the
very
best.
good.
Yes, the Niners defense is very, very bad. So it is a good matchup in theory for the Seahawks to come out and put together a solid offensive performance. Now, granted, the Panthers were a good matchup to do that too, and it was kind of pulling teeth for them to get the ball moving down the field and whatnot. The biggest storyline in this game is how is the San Francisco 49ers offense, which has looked unstoppable as of late, especially since Brock Purdy reinserted himself into the lineup. He's been great. They've been averaging almost 40 points a game in the last like 4 games or whatever. How are they going to fare against the top flight defense that is the Seattle Seahawks defense? And I'm split because I can very much see them putting Purdy in hell and making him uncomfortable and forcing turnovers. In the last 2 games, Brock
They did
Purdy's
in the
had
first game of the season. Remember?
yeah, in the last 2 games, Brock Purdy's been incredible, but he has thrown 1 interception in each game that was, like, classic shitty throw from Purdy, sailing a ball over the middle or throwing something that isn't open and it gets tipped up and picked. But besides that, he's been awesome. And then you think about the Rams game where that was a great offense that put together a really good offensive performance. The Seahawks defense, you didn't really feel its impact at all in that game, but the Seahawks still found a way to win. I feel like you have to take the Niners with the points, but I there's a part of me that thinks Seattle just finds a way today. Um, I I think I'm gonna take the Seahawks minus 2.5.
I'm taking
Very and
Seattle.
clinch themselves the 1 seed. This game is
I'm
for the
taking
1 seed in the
Seattle as
NFC.
well. This does feel like a Brock Purdy insanity run. I mean, 10 total touchdowns in 2 weeks. I mean, has
Mhm.
another quarterback this year done that?
I don't
Did
think so,
Josh? Did
no.
Josh do
No,
that?
I don't think Josh has done that this year.
No, Josh has not done that this year. I don't think Drake May. I don't think he did that. No. Okay. So yeah, I agree. I'm taking Seattle. I am in on
Okay.
Seattle.
Now we have to, um, get
Yikes.
through some of the slop that is, most of what week 18 tends to be. And the first one we have here, the Vikings, 9.5-point favorites at home against the Green Bay Packers and
Is
Clayton
Malik
Tune.
Willis playing, or are they going to
No,
play?
it's Tune. It's Tune. It's Clayton Tune against 9. JJ McCarthy is back and is playing this week. The Vikings, like, they're tied with the Lions record-wise. Obviously, they're eliminated from the playoffs, but I do think that Green Bay is just not even gonna remotely try in this game,
I agree.
because this is as bad a big of a buy as you can possibly give yourself with, you know, locked in you've been locked into the 7th seed for a couple weeks now, and I think that, with the injuries that they've had pile up, I think this is as much can we get out of this healthy, as possible. So I'm gonna take the Vikings minus 9.5. That's a lot
I,
of points for them to be laying, but I think Green Bay's defense is bad enough where nine's gonna put on a performance that is gonna be, like, somewhat uplifting entering the offseason.
I agree with you on that. I was going to go the angle of this is that I think Brian Flores should be a head coach again. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. Like
Yeah.
him just like embarrassing Clayton Tune. That's like a good oh wow, look at the Vikings defensive numbers from this year and DVOA and success rate. And then you look at I mean, this is why some Vikings fans, they hate Kevin O'Connell, because they're like, this guy gets all this credit when he's got Brian Flores as his D coordinator, really carrying the team, while he's
Mhm.
obsessed with mid quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So yeah, give me the Vikings, dude.
All right, both on the Vikings there. Next game we have is the Indianapolis Colts versus Houston Texans. Now, this game does matter for the Texans. They, in theory, could still win the AFC South with a win and a Jaguars' unlikely loss against the Tennessee Titans, but it is still possible. And as far as seeding goes, this game does matter for the Texans as well, because if they lose,
Give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
yeah, that's fine. If they do end up somehow losing this game and fall to 11-6, they they need to win to lock themselves into the 5 seed, and I think that matters a lot, especially in the AFC, when your options of the division winners are the Denver Broncos / New England Patriots, whichever team does not get the first round bye, and then and then it would either be a divisional matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars, arguably the hottest team in the NFL, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and or the winner of the AFC North, which is either the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Baltimore Ravens. Both of those teams um, are not looking good to wrap out the season here. The Steelers obviously coming off a pretty brutal loss to the Browns, and the Ravens have looked dead for weeks, even though they put together an inspiring performance in Green Bay last week. So, yeah, I think if you're the Texans, there's a lot of urgency to win this game. There's a big reason to want to win this game and want to lock yourself into the 5 seed and play the weakest division winner, that being the Steelers or the Ravens. So give me the Houston Texans laying the 10 points at home. I think this is just another week for the defense to prove themselves, and the Colts defense has been struggling as of late. So it's a good, I think, opportunity for the Texans offense to also try to build on something entering the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, listen, dude, we talk about like the Ravens comp,
Hmm.
or like the 2000 Ravens comp for this Houston Texans team. Um, it would behoove them certainly to just finish off the Colts. Basically beat up Grandpa, end their season. Their collapse due to injuries. I mean, if they win this game by 3 points, or if they lose, that's not good. That's not good, man. Like, that's you
Hmm.
not when you're a team that's been riding this huge wave of momentum. Like in that game against the Chargers, like CJ Stroud played great for 1 quarter,
Right.
and then was just doo doo the rest of the game. And
I mean, you could
realistic,
argue the Chargers drops really cost them that game.
yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
the Chargers outplayed them, except for one aspect, which was catching the football.
So you're taking
No, I'm taking the Texans, because listen,
okay.
dude, I mean, we got to consider this too. Black Monday's in 2 days.
Mhm.
There's always a shock firing that happens. I could see the GM of the Colts wanting to fire Steichen to blame him for the collapse. We all know it's just injuries, right?
Mhm.
But usually when you fire, like, Ballard's fired so many coaches, it's very rare for a GM to be able to fire 3 coaches
Yes. Yes, it is.
without, like, a Super Bowl or two to,
Mhm.
show
Protect
for it.
yourself. Sure. Alright, next game, Browns-Bengals. No reason to spend too much time on this one. Bengals are 7.5 point favorites. My gut is like the Browns defense can keep this close. Obviously, Myles Garrett needs to get the sack record in this game. I think he shouldn't have many
Dude,
problems doing so.
did you see like Pro Football Focus put that stack out on chip blocks and double teams? Like it's like his rate compared to everybody else is astronomical. Like he is like the Barry Bonds of edge rushers. How teams are like so afraid of
Mhm.
what he's capable of.
Yeah,
And
no, for sure. But I think ultimately I'm just gonna take the Bengals here. If the Browns, I think, would do themselves a nice favor by making sure that they lose. Obviously, winning last week was it's always fun for them to beat the Steelers, but they don't wanna push themselves, I think, behind the Commanders potentially by picking up their 5th win. Obviously, going from 6 to 7 in the draft is really not that huge of a deal, but they've already spoiled themselves from being in contention for the I mean, not for nothing, had they had lost, they'd be slotted in as the number 2 overall pick because their strength of schedule is astronomically worse than everyone else's that has 3 wins.
exactly,
So they've
exactly. Like
already messed themselves up. It behooved them to not do
you're
it
going
again.
from picking like
2, it would have been 2
I
by
was gonna
losing
say
last
you're
week.
going from picking like Arvell Reese or Ruben Bain to now it's I think they're gonna draft Caleb Downs. That's my
Mhm,
prediction. You know,
mhm.
even though you look at that defense, I mean they have a tremendous front seven, but their secondary is kind of old and like they could use some players. I mean, Rodney McLeod was starting for them last year, Michael. Like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. They're
you know,
they're they're ways away.
yeah. But yeah, I'm taking the Bengals as well. I mean, they do. This seems to be like they're a yearly ritual in December slash early January. They missed the playoffs by a lot, but Joe Burrow's cooking at the end of the year. And I mean, is this going to be Joe Burrow's last start as a Cincinnati Bengal?
Could be,
Could be
could
his
be.
last start. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he balls out and you see like he's hugging his teammates on the sideline. It's like, oh, why is he so emotional?
Yeah, yeah. Alright, next game we have on the docket is another meaningless game, I guess, except for tanking reasons. The Dallas Cowboys taking on the New York Giants. Now, the Giants need to ensure that they lose so they can keep keep up at number 2 overall. Potentially, if the Raiders pull off a victory, could slide back into 1. But them beating the Raiders last week almost did all to tank that one out. But the Cowboys currently slotted in at the 14th overall pick. Um, winning here will just it'll put them above all those 8 and 9 teams because they will be 500 exactly. And there are a handful of teams that could end up 8 and 9. So they do have an incentive to lose, but that's not really in the Cowboys brand to really tank all that much.
Yeah,
So
it is embarrassing for the Cowboys that
give me
their
Dallas
strength
minus
of
3.5.
schedule, their strength of schedule 436, and like they could finish with a losing record. That's
You
embarrassing,
took
man.
Cincinnati last, right?
I did.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm taking Dallas. Are you with Dallas too?
Dude, this line, even though like the Giants should be tanking,
Mm-hmm.
bro, they're laying 3.5 on the road still with
Mm-hmm.
like basically like I mean who's skipping that game for the Cowboys? Like I know they're not in the playoffs at all, but like shouldn't you like I mean like I don't know, like isn't this kind
I
of
mean,
like
no one's resting. There's no reason I think to rest anybody. Because if you're resting now, then you might as well have been resting for the last, you know, 3 weeks since they got eliminated.
no Javante Williams. Here I'm going to pull up their injury report because this seems so. Javante Williams is not
Whoa.
playing. Neither is Malik Davis. T.J. Bass is out. Demarion Overshone and Siobhan Ravel are out. Obviously, the big news for the Cowboys this past week, they cut Trayvon Diggs because he wanted to stay in Washington with his family to celebrate Christmas instead of flying back and then flying over. And Schottenheimer told him no, and he disobeyed Schottenheimer, and they cut him.
Yeah, yeah, and now he's a member of the Green Bay Packers.
And now, so yeah, good for him. Oh God, I'm taking the Giants to screw up their tank, Michael.
Wow.
They do that. Doesn't this feel like when they played the Colts and they screwed up their tank with Drew Lock? Where like the Cowboys, I get this vibe from the Cowboys.
The Colts were at least playing for playoff position. That was more of a disaster on their part. The Colts were not eliminated from the playoffs yet when that was going down.
But
This is
Jerry just thrives off of like, if they added another playoff seed, and then the Cowboys could have been this 8th seed with this great offense, and who knows what their defense can do? I don't know, man. Like the
what
Giants.
did Jerry say? He said like we'd view 8-1 as a winning record. I think that he wants the win today or tomorrow. Like he said that. He said we'd view 8-1 as a winning record, not 500. So, all right, you're on the Giants there. Next game, Saints Falcons. Okay, this is a huge game, huge game because, like we said, the Buccaneers are not just in win and you're in mode. They need to win, and they need the Atlanta Falcons to lose. Very fun, interesting quirk here is that the if the Panthers win, they win the division. Full stop. They would be 9-8, and the Buccaneers would be 7-10. Over, NFC South over. Panthers are in. Now, if the Buccaneers win, both of those teams would be 8-9, and a head-to-head tiebreaker between those two teams would go in favor of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers would win the division, and they'd be in. Now, the third scenario that was very unlikely until the Falcons defeated the Los Angeles Rams on Monday Night Football is now if the Atlanta Falcons also win tomorrow against the New Orleans Saints, they go to 8-9, and all of a sudden we have a three-way tiebreaker between the Carolina Panthers, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Atlanta Falcons, all at 8-9. And the first tiebreaker in a three-way tie in a division is their head-to-head. It's like a round robin. Each team has played each other. Like you played 4 times, whatever. The Carolina Panthers would be 3-1 versus the Buccaneers and Falcons this season, while the Buccaneers would be, I think they would be 1-2, or excuse me, 1-3 or 2-2. Point is that if it's a tiebreaker between the Buccaneers and the Panthers only, the Buccaneers win that tiebreaker. If it's a tiebreaker between the Buccaneers, Panthers, and the Falcons, the Panthers win that tiebreaker and thus would win the NFC South and win the division and go to the playoffs. So the Panthers have a backdoor to get in if they happen to lose today, and that's what I am predicting. I am predicting the Buccaneers winning today, but I'm predicting the Falcons winning tomorrow and the Panthers getting in by virtue of the three-way tiebreaker and the Buccaneers missing out because they ultimately lost to Quinn Ewers. So give me the Atlanta Falcons at home tomorrow, -3.5 against the New Orleans Saints. Granted, that could very well be a field goal game. I could totally see that. But for the sake of my fuel behind it, I'm going to take the Falcons to cover 3.5.
I'm taking the Falcons as well. I do feel like the Saints are obviously playing some pretty good ball. I picked the Titans last week. The Titans were dominating that game very early on, and then once again, Tyler Shuck comes back, leads the Saints.
Look at Shuck, man.
And don't you feel like there's a certain point where, isn't he just kind of due to be like, well, he's a rookie, so he's gonna throw a couple picks there. You saw, I think what you saw this past Monday from the Falcons was what would happen if they like actually met their potential, like people thought they would have done.
Mhm.
You know, like
Sure.
what would have happened?
The
And
defense being pretty chaotic and Bijan going crazy. Yeah, it's
bingo,
fine.
that's what everyone thought, right? People picked them to win the division as like kind of like what the Panthers are, like kind of what they are right now. 9-10, 9-win team,
Mhm.
make the playoffs, have a couple big upsets on along the way, whatever. My only reservation is like Kirk still looks like a zombie, but because Bijan is so dangerous that like the checkdowns are always going to be open for Kirk
Mhm.
because you have to like load the box up to stop Bijan and the flats are going to be wide open, you know.
Mhm.
I'm also thinking though too, like could this be an Algier day because like, hey, we want to get Algier some touches because we're not playing for the playoffs. And let's, not overuse Bijan, I guess, not risk injury heading into next year because he's so vital to that team. I don't know.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. They're so poorly run. Like Drake London should have been shut down for the season, yet they're still trotting him out there with a knee that's
Yeah,
going to probably require surgery.
right.
I'm taking the Falcons. I think we're just going to see Tyler Shuck under duress. Makes a couple plays, but he's the secondary for the Falcons. I mean, underachieved all year. Obviously, big win against the Rams. I'm taking Atlanta. I think
Alright.
I wouldn't be surprised this scenario you have laid forth will happen.
Yeah, that would be a fun one, wouldn't it? Alright, next game we have the Jags against the Titans, also an important game. The Jags so the Jags, if they win, obviously win the division, and barring some help, they could get the 1 seed, in the unlikely scenario that the Patriots and the Broncos both lose and the Jags win, the Jags skyrocket to the 1 seed, and that would be pretty electric.
The road
Um,
to the Super Bowl goes through
through Duval, man, how about
Jacksonville.
it? But if they lose to the Titans somehow, and the Bills win against the Jets, and the Texans win against the Colts, and the Chargers somehow win against the Broncos, the Jags would fly all the way down to 7. So it's truly remarkable. They're one of the few teams that could be anywhere in the standings, in seeding, I should say, from 1 to 7 entering the last game of the year. Now, what feels most likely is they end up at 3 and happy day. And that's what I'm gonna predict. They're gonna beat the Titans here. They cover the 13.5 point spread. It's pretty huge, but the way I'm visualizing this game is like they get out early, they get off and running. Liam Cohen really has the boys ready to play, and the Titans are just kinda going through the motions, and, it's like another turnover. Oh, what a bad way for Cam Ward to end his rookie campaign. Like, he's been looking good, and he's made some really nice plays the last handful of weeks, but this is a very motivated Jags team, and I think that they're not gonna be messing around. So give me Jacksonville minus 13.5 to stay hot going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, listen, man, you know how I like Cam Ward. I
It's a
mean,
big spread, man. It is a big spread.
as a big spread, I mean, dude, when it would just greatly. I mean, wouldn't like that Titans defense, which has a great interior pass rush, look better if Ruben Bain was also coming off the edge?
Yeah, yeah.
If you're the Titans, don't you kind of have to like kind of think like that a little bit? Like
Mhm,
like
mhm.
interim coach. Apparently, the owner of the Titans, Amy Strunk, was like, "Oh, we're going to redo the front office as well." Like a lot of big changes in Tennessee. I'm taking the Jags, man. The Jag. I mean, I think we're going to see another strong T-Law performance. I mean, I feel like there's going to be one upset tomorrow. I don't think it's this. I highly doubt it's this.
Mhm, mhm. Um, okay, the next game that we have is the Miami
Dolphins,
Dolphins against the New
Patriots.
England Patriots. Now, this is a huge spread. Obviously, the Patriots they're dealing with some issues here. Both
Oh, that's one way to
uh,
put it.
Christian Barmore and Stephon Diggs are both dealing with assault charges, physical assault charges, and I don't know what's going to happen, man. I don't know what their status is going to be going into the playoffs. But I will say one thing. I do think that the MVP is Drake Mays, and I do think that the Patriots are going to win this game, and it's going to lock in his MVP. Nothing too crazy is going to happen. However, I do think for the vibes going down and going around, maybe I'm getting a little too ahead of myself, but I'm going to take the Dolphins plus the 11.5. Say they lose by like 10 instead of getting totally blown out. I don't think it's going to be as ugly as what the Jets game was last week, where start to finish, Drake May was killing them. He had 5 touchdowns by like early in the third quarter. I don't think it's going to be that sort of domination again. I also, you know, I think the Broncos taking on the Chargers without Justin Herbert took a little wind out of the sails of potentially swiping the 1 seed from them. So I do think they do enough to win and keep their high seed, to keep their 2 seed. But I also think that it's not going to be as dominant as it was last week. Give me Miami.
Ooh, so you think yours and company keep this as a close game?
Close-ish. 10 points. 10 points.
It would if the Dolphins somehow upset the Patriots tomorrow.
Hmm.
The Patriots are back because I do feel like every time they play the Dolphins, like the last game of the season, there's always some like chicanery that happens, like something wild occurs.
Right. Right.
I don't think that's the case tomorrow. I'm
Mhm.
taking I'm taking New England, to just pace them. I, I felt like that big win they had last week. Because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers suck, you know. And listen, I know like this Patriots team is going to have a lot of questions of their legitimacy because of who they've played. Um, I don't know. I mean, I think the Patriots knew what they were getting into with Stephon Diggs, Michael. I mean, it's not like
I mean,
Stephon
I don't
Diggs
think we
has
were expecting legal issues, though. Like, I know he's been, a
posted
bit of
videos
a
of
head
him
case,
with
but
bags of
those
cocaine.
are those are very different than, like, assault charges.
Well, it's like people like someone. I think they. I mean, you saw that video with Dalvin Cook. He's like, "What's the one player on the team you would never let date your sister?" And he immediately said Diggs.
Listen, I get it. The entire locker room was saying it, so, um, I don't know. I don't think you I get character guys, whatever. I didn't see it
This
as
just
he
feels
was
like
gonna
a
be
big
violent,
Mac
but
Hollins day. Like Mac Hollins is going to walk in like a speedo in
so
the
you're
in the
taking you're
snow.
taking New England, or are you
Taking New
taking Miami?
England.
Okay. Um, alright, we gotta speed through these slop because these games just suck. Raiders, Chiefs. The Raiders need to lose to clinch the number 1 overall pick. They're at home to take on Chris Olodokun, who nearly put together an inspiring Christmas performance to win, and ruin the Broncos' Christmas, but alas, came up just short. Um, I'm gonna take the Raiders plus the 5.5. I don't think the Olodokun-led Chiefs have enough juice, even like the Giants that lacked so much juice. At least Josh Jackson Dart had some sort of juice going, and the Raiders were like totally, totally in the tank mode. I think now it's more like they're just kind of assuming they're gonna lose. And the Chiefs are just so dead that I don't really see them scoring more than like 13 points. So even it could feel like they have no shot to win the entire time. I think it's more likely that we're looking at like a 13-9 finish as opposed to what the Giants did to the Raiders last week.
I'm taking the Chiefs, and this is kind of my logic. This is Travis Kelsey's last game, most likely. He's probably going to retire. This could be a
Yeah.
last game for a lot of Chiefs players. And listen, I know you're like, oh, who cares or whatever.
Oh, no, not at all.
Like I think I could see them putting together a let's win this for Killer Trav. I mean, Chris Jones might not be a Chief next year either. We don't know what's going to happen, man.
Yeah.
They got cap problems. Like if this is like their last hurrah, and they're going to cover a 5.5 point spread. Michael, this is kind of like the perfect team to do it against, right?
Yeah.
This Raider team, I would say of the 17 game era, this is one of the worst teams. Might be
Mhm.
the worst team in the
Mhm.
17 game era that we switched to. They are horrendous. Like I can't trust them to cover my bed, let alone a five
Yeah.
and a half point spread.
I hear you. Maybe you're right. Um, Next game we have now we're getting into some things that matter a little bit. The Chicago Bears taking on the Detroit Lions in Chicago. We know how the NFL likes to give Goff his cold weather opponents earlier in the season, give the Lions those cold weather opponents early in the season. And this is a rare case of that not being what's happening here. Week 18 in Chicago, it's going to be freezing. And as much as I would like to think that the Lions have a chance to beat the Bears and biting kneecaps, Dan Campbell is going to have some pride to really get the team up and ready for a performance like this and play spoiler to an extent by ruining some seeding for the division rival. Um, I just think all those things kind of go out the window when you think about how Jared Goff plays in the cold. I don't think for, you know, effectively a meaningless game for the Detroit Lions, he's going to all of a sudden know how to play in the cold. He's all of a sudden going to be slinging it all over the place in the cold. Um, the offensive line's been so feeble that they haven't been able to run the ball effectively in a while, and we know that that's their key to their success. And I think the Bears are just going to be kind of selling out to stop the run and as take that away and just be ready and hope that, expect Goff to make mistakes. I think that's going to be what kind of the plan is. And I think they're gonna succeed doing so. It's no secret that the Lions ran up the score against the Bears the last time these two teams played out in Detroit. So I think the Bears are definitely gonna take care of business. If, you know, this game was like in Chicago indoors or something, I think this could be a different scenario, a little bit different outcome. But as much as my brain is trying to slice it, I just can't visualize the Bears losing tomorrow. And I think it's destiny for them to have a date with the Packers for the third matchup of the year on the first round of the wild card. I think it just makes all too much sense, as opposed to the Lions sweeping the Bears this season in what is a lost season for Detroit. And to top it off, the Lions definitely want to lose, I think, to guarantee themselves getting a fourth place schedule.
Yeah,
You think about
what a fraudulent guy Dan Campbell is. We're gonna bite kneecaps, but hey, we're gonna throw this game so we can get an easier schedule next
yeah,
year.
you look at their opponents for next year. They play
Giants,
the uh Well,
Saints,
I'm seeing what divisions they play. So they play the NFC South already. So they play an NFC East division, same division, and an NFC West. That's the big one, the NFC West, and the AFC South for that matter. So them finishing fourth, they get to play the Giants. They get to play the Cardinals as opposed to any of the other really threatening teams in the NFC West. And then they also play the AFC South, which is the Titans instead of the Colts as a team that could potentially be a solid contender next year. So the Lions, the big one is the NFC West. I mean, going from playing the Rams, it looks like most likely to playing the Cardinals, I think or even the Niners, but going to play the Cardinals instead next year is definitely, I think, a big benefit to them. Obviously, it's only 3 games, but 3 games is a nice chunk of the season. So the Lions, I think, are gonna be everyone's favorite pick to go from worst to first next year, and I do think they wanna ensure that they get that 4th place schedule by losing. I'm not saying they're gonna tank, but it would take a lot for them to beat the Bears in this spot tomorrow, and I don't think it's happening. So give me Chicago minus the 3 at home.
I agree with everything you just said. I do feel like for the Bears though, because you're like a newish team and you're in
Mhm.
uncharted territory to a certain extent, I think you want to keep this momentum train going. Like I know like
Yeah.
ideally like hey, you would like the bye or you would like to maybe like rest starters to a certain extent because look at the crap load of injuries they've had all year, Michael. I mean, like DJ Moore was sick, but then you also have guys like to key to their offense, like Roma Dunze, banged up.
Colston Loveland. Yeah,
Colson,
oh, well, banged up, yes. The receivers are all banged up for
they're
sure.
all banged up, and your secondary was banged up for like 3/5 of the season already.
Mhm,
So yeah, like maybe you want to get some rest. Like
mhm,
you don't want to get into a dogfight with this Lions team because Dan Campbell might have
mhm.
the attitude of like, let's face it, the Lions last year and even this year, they're kind of a dirty team, Michael.
If they're banged up, like, if this is an ugly, low-scoring slugfest tomorrow and it's like the Bears are really sweating out like a 20 to 17 win or something, and it's like a lot of cuts and bumps and bruises along the way to clinch the 2 seed, I don't think that's the most desirable outcome. I think the Bears want this to be a blowout, and we
You
can
get up like
it's like a
35-0 by
take out
halftime
Caleb
and
it's
then
like take out Caleb by the 4th
and then
quarter sort of
throw in secret, Tyler secret Bagent man out there,
Tyson.
Tyson Badgett out there to get some
Badgett.
reps
Yeah, yeah.
and then rest your guys. That's what they want. But that's I don't know. Like this Lions team, like, they're a dirty team. Like you saw Aiden Hutchins try to trip 9 earlier
Mhm,
this year.
mhm.
First off, why would you want to injure him and knock him out of the game for
Right, right.
starters? That's just idiotic. But anywho, like I could see that happening. Like they're just gonna want to like, oh, they think they're just gonna roll us. Like, oh, we're like if Dan Campbell's really that bite their kneecaps, we're gonna be annoying. I could see that.
You're taking the Lions then.
I'm taking the Bears. It's a 3-point
Okay.
spread. I'm saying like annoying is like Bears 20, Lions like 14. That's annoying.
Yeah, no, it's definitely could be
Because
annoying.
here's the thing, Michael. Realistically, if the Bears lose this game and the Eagles win their game,
Mhm.
the Eagles host the Green Bay Packers next week. The Bears host the Los
I
Angeles
don't
Rams.
know.
Who the hell would you rather play between those two teams
Or
right
the
now?
Niners. Yeah.
Or the
Yeah.
Niners? Who would you rather have? If you're
I
the
I
Bears,
I
would
agree.
you rather play?
Well, I mean, look at it. Do the Bears really wanna play the Niners next week too? They just sweated out 2 games against both of those opponents the last 2 weeks. The Packers, I mean, we're all shitting on the Packers and how bad their defense is, and rightfully so, but, like, without Micah Parsons, it took literally a God-given miracle for the Bears to win that game at home. It really did. Like, there is no guarantees that they are getting by Green Bay in a playoff game, the way that that regular season game went. Could not have been more of a miracle than ever. Anytime you recover an onside kick, it feels like there's some higher power that's involved. And then or, you gotta go play the Niners, which made your defense look like a bunch of, college players as opposed to professionals for essentially 60 minutes outside of a first play pick six. Um, so, like, I do agree that I think the Packers is a more desirable choice, but I think sometimes you gotta be a little be careful what you wish for, talking about especially a division opponent, um, when you yourself are flawed. It's not like the Bears are some perfect entity like the 2024 Eagles were, asking to go play the Commanders again. We were begging to play the Commanders again, and obviously we absolutely spanked them. Um, I don't know if that's in the cards for a team that has a defense that throws as much as the Bears. Regardless, I do agree with rather playing the Packers than either the Rams or the 49ers, because the Packers do seem dead. Uh, but we're both on Chicago there. To quickly continue to wrap, we have the Jets Bills final game in this Bills stadium. Josh is going to play, I think, a little bit. It does matter for seating purposes. Um, you know, would you rather? I don't know what you would rather do. Would you rather be the 7th seed and potentially have a date with New England, or would you rather be a 6th seed and play the Jags?
I mean, if any of these wild card teams, honestly, Michael, I would love the opportunity to host a playoff game from the sheer fact that, well, what if Denver implodes because of Bo Nix?
They
What if
can, yeah, because
what if
Buffalo
Jacksonville implodes because of Trevor Lawrence?
Buffalo has some stuff to play for because if the Texans lose to the Colts, which we don't think is going to happen, but it's definitely not impossible.
I
Um,
so I
the
just
Bills
pulled,
would
I
move
pulled
up to
I pulled up
5.
the seeding from 2021 playoffs when
Yeah.
the Rams hosted the Niners as the 4
Mhm.
seed and they were the 5th seed. Like I do think to a certain extent we're going to see upsets in the AFC. So I think yeah, seeding does kind of matter.
Mhm.
You're Buffalo, you want to have a playoff game there. You don't
Mhm.
want to have to go to Denver. You don't want to have to go to. Well, even look at the other two teams. Do you want to have to go to Houston and play them again when your quarterback got his brains beaten out of his head in a playoff game again? Wouldn't you
Yeah.
rather have the Texans have to come visit you as opposed to having to go down in the dome to have to play the Texans again? But I'm just saying that's
I
just
mean,
my
that's down there. It's hard. I think it's, because you're not winning the division, so it's hard to.
or better yet, I don't know, go into the playoffs with a win after you basically blew a game when the officials were trying to help you win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
So,
like that's the thing. Like that's
we're
the
both
thing.
on
Like
Buffalo here. We don't
we're
we're
going
both
Buffalo.
on.
I'm going
Yeah.
Buffalo, man.
Yeah, I mean, they're closing out the stadium. The Jets are about as bad as anybody in the league, so, yeah, I don't think they're gonna have any issues there. Um, Next game, Rams-Cardinals. Now a rare Sean McVay, or excuse me, next game, Eagles-Commanders. Let's just talk about it because there's no reason not to. Eagles are 4.5-point favorites at home. Obviously, a lot of guys aren't playing. It's going to be Tanner McKee that's starting. Saquon's not going to play. I don't expect AJ Brown to play. There is a chance we see Devontae Smith
To
to
hit his
get him
incentive.
over 1,000 yards. But the Eagles could also just give him the money for it while he doesn't hit
He's
it.
been kind of banged up the last couple weeks, taking some big hits.
Just like I think they
I
would
think
do
I'd
it.
rather just rest him and
I
pay him
agree.
give him the bonus.
Yeah, I think that's probably what they end up doing. If they play him, it's gonna be what Goddard did last year, which, like, feed him targets early to get
Well, that
him.
was a little different because Goddard was banged up, and then they like, oh, this is his warm up game.
I understand. I just think it's not they can't sit everybody, there's gotta be some guys that need to get on the field, and I think we could see Devonta Smith for, like, a quarter or so, but I still doubt it. Um,
I'm very curious to see
like, Jalen
Tanner.
Carter's not playing. Um the big thing is that I think a lot of the defense is going to play. I think that's kind of what their MO has been to an extent. Like the defense doesn't rest as much as some of the guys on offense. Obviously, it feels a little too late to try to get some positive momentum for the offense because that's the last thing you want to do, like 2023, where the offense didn't look good and then you got your two most important players on offense got hurt in the game. So um, I don't think you want to do that. So that's why a lot of guys are sitting. I think the defense, whether it's the second stringers or a handful of starters still playing, I think they're going to make Josh Johnson's life pretty miserable. I do think the Eagles are going to win and cover the 4.5. This is it's always a big spot for Tanner McKee to come out and look good and play well, as the backup playing in these Week 18 games. I don't think, after watching guys like Malik Willis and Snoop Huntley, and you think about, oh, how good is Tanner McKee? We just have him here in the shadows lurking. He's such a great quarterback. That's our backup. We're so lucky. I think we all get a little ahead of ourselves. I do think he's a nice backup to have, but I don't think he's like something spectacular that we're hiding from the rest
Well,
of the league.
I can kind of see. I mean, I think a team if he let's say he throws like 4 touchdowns tomorrow
Yeah.
The Commanders' defense is horrific. Like, and and let's say the Commanders are just packing in, like Dan Quinn, like, we're gonna try to basically implying they're gonna injure the Eagles. Listen, the guys on that team, they just want to go home. They're tired, rough season. Dan Quinn's kind of a blowhard anyway. Um, the fact the Eagles are laying 4.5 playing their backups, and the fact that everyone's taking them, that kind of should show you what you think about the Commanders.
Mm-hmm. So you're with the Eagles there.
I'm taking the Eagles.
All right. Next game we have Rams Cardinals. Now, a rare instance of Sean McVay uh, like playing his starters to end the season. Usually he's always first in line to rest, and I think there are reasons for him to not want to. A loss this week would guarantee them the 6th seed and almost guarantee them a date with the Eagles, which I don't think is what he wants in the first round of the playoffs. So a win this week puts them in a situation where a 49ers loss tonight would jump them up to the 5 seed, and they'd get to play whoever wins the NFC South. So the starters are expected to play anyways. I think that's at least they want them to look good entering the playoffs. That Falcons game was about as much of a disaster from an offensive perspective that the Rams have had in a while. Um, Stafford was just not good. They really missed Devontae Adams, all that sort of stuff.
Well,
Uh,
not just that too, bro. I looked at the Rams. I know like McVay doesn't care about seeding or whatever. McVay's record on the road in the playoffs is not very good. Like
no,
his
they've had some tough losses.
his biggest road win was that improbable comeback against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers when they were trailing. Well, no, they almost blew that game to the Bucks.
They were
Remember?
winning big and they almost
They
choked it. Yeah.
almost lost that game. Like that's kind of my point. Even last year, like that loss to the Eagles. Like think of all the mistakes they made that led them to like lose that game, bro.
Yeah,
Like
a couple turnovers, flat out, just turnovers. No, I agree.
so to me, I feel like you at least want to get in the playoffs with some momentum, and not just that too. This Cardinals, they're ready to pack it up, man. You know that they're ready to be done for the year.
Yeah, they gotta. It's a time to beat up on a bad team to give yourself a little bit of something to feel better about. And listen, who knows what happens? Because tonight, if Seattle wins, then it's like, okay, we can move up to 5 and we can avoid playing the Eagles. Like we have to win. It's very important. Um, but if the Niners win, they can't move up to 5. I think they'd be it would more just be a tune-up, and the result of the game does not matter as much as it would
Mm.
be, "Alright, let's just get some work." So, tonight is definitely a big game for that favor. I think for I mean, obviously, for our sake as Eagles fans, I don't think we want to play the Rams in the first round. I think we'd much rather play the Niners or the Packers.
I think if you're
Do you
maybe
wanna play the Rams in the first round? I particularly not in the first round, I don't. I think it's as much as we can, say how much they're struggling, I do still think it's the most complete team in the field, and it's not something I want to be the first playoff game before, you know the Eagles got better as the playoffs went on last year, and I don't know if they'll be able to survive another game of looking like slop
I'll put it
against
to you this way.
bad teams.
I think if the Eagles do play the Rams at super wild card weekend, and Nick Sirianni and the Eagles beat the Rams again, it's going to be really rough for McVay's rep
Mhm,
to
mhm,
keep losing to this guy. We all kind of like, it's like the biggest love hate relationship between fans and a coach I've ever seen.
mhm. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, yeah. So I'm taking the Rams minus 8.5. Obviously, that factors a lot. If Seattle wins, they're definitely going to be pushing. If the Niners win tonight, I think it'll be a little bit different, but overall, um, give me the Rams. Are you also on the Rams?
yeah. I mean, I think this is like a Rams tune-up job. to get in the playoffs on a roll.
Yeah. All right. Next game, we have the Denver Broncos versus the Chargers. This game could have been a lot more interesting had Herbert been playing, but the
If
Chargers
Jackson
electing,
would have caught that damn pass.
yeah, I mean, Chargers electing to just kind of chill, get themselves healthy. So Denver needs to win to get the 1 seed, and I think they're going to against the Chargers backups,
I thought that
basically.
Sean Payton couldn't help himself and went to blow out the Chiefs. I mean, he
But
also
they
hates.
just they couldn't.
He
You know,
also
they,
hates. He also hates Jim Harbaugh.
yeah, yeah.
So fun. Did you?
Give me
Did you? By the
Denver.
way. By the way. To speak because this game. This is. I'm taking Denver. Did you
Hmm.
see that video where they asked a bunch of coaches which current NFL coach has more career rushing yards
I
than
did see that.
than
And Bo
Bo
Jackson.
Jackson, and then
Yeah.
John Harbaugh. That when they said it's your brother Jim, and he was like, "Oh my god, I'm so like that's how stupid he is."
Hmm. Hmm.
Like it's your own brother. It's your own brother.
Yeah.
And this is the perfect segue into the night game tomorrow,
Into
Michael.
Sunday night football. Um, Biggest game of the year, the NFL, they love their AFC North rivalries. They go to it like a crack addict,
Bro,
and
Roger Goodell. First off, Roger Goodell is such a freaking boomer. Because you're right. Like, why?
they love it, man. And it doesn't matter how slop it is. They're hoping for cinema.
Dude, like Goodell is like the guy at Christmas, like your grandfather. It's not your grandfather specifically, like in general, who's like he's dusting
Hmm.
off the VHS tapes, or
Right,
he's like
right.
hook up the DVD player. We're gonna watch the 2005 Pittsburgh Steelers.
Hmm. Hmm.
Bro, this is
Yeah.
just like this is like the perfect reason why teams don't like people. There's like guys who are like your age or younger who think if you win your division, you should not be promised a playoff spot.
Yeah. Um,
Today's
that's more
game,
common. That's more common in the
the
NFC
first and
this
last
year.
games of this slate are kind of like the justification, essentially.
Yeah. So the Ravens are 3.5 point favorites on the road, man, in Pittsburgh. That feels like a farce, I'll be honest, in and of
I
itself.
gotta be honest, like a one-legged bad back Lamar, he
Yeah.
already struggles against this defense. I mean, it feels like Derrick Henry's going to have to basically trample the Pittsburgh Steelers and send them to oblivion to win tomorrow, right? I mean, is that what I
It's
mean?
gonna be it's because think about it, no DK Metcalf. That's huge, man. We saw how much that impacted the game last
Yeah,
week
Aaron
because
Rodgers last week, all he cared about was not getting sacked by Myles Garrett to give him the
right.
record.
Rogers, listen, since he's gotten old and like post prime, he does not hold on to the ball. He doesn't handle pressure well as much. He can't like evade and escape. So he's just balls out, balls out, balls out, balls out, balls out in under 2 seconds, like all the time. And with that comes with making up your mind on where you're going with the ball before the ball is
Yeah,
snapped. And there
Captain
were
Checkdown.
there were a lot of plays where he decided to just take the one-on-one fade ball down the field to Scotty Miller or Marquez Valdez-Scantling or whatever other schlubs they rolled out there, instead of just reading the front side of the play where you have open guys. Your route concepts were working in that game, not to, like, totally, glaze Arthur Smith or anything, but, like, he was drawing up plays that were getting open in big downs on 4th downs and stuff, and, like, he just wasn't even looking that way because he had his mind made up he was gonna take the one-on-one shot. And,
Because he used
dude,
to make those
it's
plays
not
5, 6,
yeah,
7 years ago
but it's
when he
not
had Devontae Adams and he was
right.
still
It's not
like
Devontae Adams, it's not Jordy Nelson, it's not even Garrett Wilson last year, it's not DK Metcalf this year. It's Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Scotty Miller,
it
so
would be
he's
like it would be like if Jalen was throwing those one-on-one go routes on 4th down to Darius Cooper.
or to Dotson instead of yeah, exactly. So, um all that being said, it's a huge miss to not have DK Metcalf for them, and it's tough, man. I'm really torn with this game because
Yeah, but I agree.
Lamar's back, and it feels like the Ravens. There is just no way. Like they know if they lean on Derrick Henry, they
But
should
if
be
they
fine.
lose, Harbaugh's fired.
if they lean, they're gonna like Todd Monken said in his interview that he was like angrily telling Derrick Henry, "Get your ass back in the game. I don't care that you're tired." And it's like, wow, first of all. But second of all, if that's gonna be the case, that's what they're gonna do on Sunday night. If Derrick Henry's gonna need 35 carries again, they're gonna give him 35 carries again. And it should only be better because now you have Lamar back there instead of Huntley, so it should be a little more threatening on if he pulls it for play action or to run himself. I I still am, since it's 3.5, I'm going to take Pittsburgh because I really have a hard time seeing how this game is not a field goal difference. Um, they're at home. We know how the Steelers tend to, do well against Lamar at times, and I think this is just gonna be another
I could
page in
see
that
Aaron
chapter. Give
Rodgers.
me the Steelers covering.
I'm taking the Ravens.
I'm honestly, I'm gonna be soft. I'm not even gonna commit to who I think is gonna win the game. I'm just gonna say the Steelers are gonna cover, and whatever happens because of that, because the
No,
Ravens
I'm
win.
committing to the Ravens winning. I'm going to tell you why. One, listen, man. Friend of the show. He's not a big Derrick Henry fan. That would be
Mhm.
my good friend Mac. He hates Derrick Henry.
Yeah, absurd.
He,
Weird guy to
he,
hate.
he hates Derrick Henry.
Weird guy to hate.
Hates Derrick Henry. I mean, listen. We all have one guy in sports that we just all hate. That's not like a direct villain to like our teams, right? He just hates him. Well, listen, I probably have a rational hate towards certain guys too. I'm not gonna.
I'd like to think I do, but it's like I don't even think it's as irrational as Derrick Henry hatred. Feels very strange, misguided. What did he do?
We got to bring him. We got to bring Mac on the show to talk about that.
I'm just trying to
We need to bring him on, Mac. If you're
bring
listening,
him to the tailgate tomorrow, and I gotta pick his brain on what's going on with that because that feels ludicrous. Shout
so
out Derrick Henry.
I can't believe I'm trusting Zay Michael. Zay Flowers is an idiot, dude. He is a moron. And
Yeah,
Isaiah Likely, you don't remember L.J. Smith. I remember L.J. Smith.
yeah,
Isaiah Likely is legitimately the clone of L.J. Smith in terms of, wow, this guy's really talented. And then he gets near the red zone and does the dumbest things possible.
yeah, yeah.
Like in the Super Bowl, he fumbled in the red zone when they were going in for a touchdown. L.J. Smith, I believe, cost them points. Like
Mhm.
everyone rails on Donovan in that game for choking it away.
All right, well, we can't get away from the
Sorry, I'm
point
just
here.
saying. I don't know why
I
I'm
know it's
taking
traumatic. I'm
over.
sorry.
But this is like our last week of picking regular season games, though. So we're gonna tally it up, and then
Yeah, I
we'll see
think
how much you're kicking my ass, and then
it's really not that far apart. Like our records are mirrored, you know, entering this last game or entering this last week, I should say. It's close. We've gotten better. I mean, we're definitely looking at previous years. Um, actually, first of all, last year um, we were both above 500, which is awesome. But I was awesome last year. I'm actually shocked at how effective I was. 144, 101, and 5 last year. Are you shitting me? No wonder I had such a better gambling year last year than this year. But anyways,
oh boy,
that'll wrap up our week 18 predictions. We will we can do next week. We're gonna pick obviously playoff games, but maybe we could both do a playoff bracket and predict the whole thing out
yes,
early, and then base our picks, loosely off that. So
yeah,
that'll wrap up this show. Not wrap up the year. We wrapped up the year last time. This
first
is
show
our
of the year.
start
We
to the
got
new year.
we got football this year. Look at what we missed. Missed college football playoffs, man. I think we'll get closer. We'll talk more about that. Okay.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
But thanks everybody. That's our
Take it
show.
easy. That's our show.
We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on Fired Up Sports. which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.